If you didn't have time to watch the 7-hour Giles Trials event for CJI 2, don't worry, I gotcha. In this video, we're going to discuss my key takeaways from the event, starting with turtle. When you're attacking from turtle, you can look to throw in your far hook. And if the defender just tries to use their elbow, it can be hard for them to defend the hook from coming in. So a lot of times they're going to use their hand, which makes it hard for us to insert our hook, but we can capitalize on this extension by taking a deep underhook and using it to ratchet the defender over. So now instead of taking their back, we force them into a pinning position. And from the pinning position, we saw this very unique submission that I didn't know much about, so I made an Instagram post seeing if there were more resources or examples that I could study. And I feel very lucky to kind of be the hub that a lot of jiu-jitsu nerds gather around, and you all had very insightful recommendations.
If I take like this traditional like RNC style grip, my hand is now in my way. Okay, so as I try and go down for the finish, like it's not impossible, but this arm has got in my way. This is why we're looking at using this alternative grip. So I'm bringing my hand up, and then I take my shoulder to the floor and it drags my arm through.
The most common defense to an arm triangle is the defender turning away.
The only defense I've actually seen that actually works for high-level karagatames is to expose your back by turning away from the karagatame and shooting your shoulder forward into the lock and exposing your back.
But the key to this submission that seems to be called the farce is getting our chest around the corner.
Okay, I've got to wait for this to fully disconnect so that I know that I can get my chest around the corner. Look, it's there.
So the dilemma we can play is if our opponent tries to get their back to the mat, we can go for a classic arm triangle. But if they turn away to defend the arm triangle, this is our opportunity to transition into a farce.
If I was in this position and I started driving the elbow here and Omi didn't go, I would cradle the shoulder and just go back to the head and arm. Okay, because he's giving it to me. But people are gonna turn. You're gonna feel their feet. They're gonna twist their hip. They're gonna try and turn up onto their side. And now it's gonna be really hard to try and pull them back down and get the head and arm. So look, just make the adjustment.
I went ahead and added #Farce to the Outlier database, so you and I can easily search for examples and learn more about it. And we can see people from New Wave like Nicholas Marigali and Giancarlo Bedoni using the farce to attack when they have the head and arm grip. And the fact that they're using it and we're seeing it being used in the highest level of competition gives me the validation I need to incorporate it into my game. And if you're interested in the Outlier database, which is a website I made for you and I to more efficiently study jiu-jitsu, check the link in the description. Now switching gears a bit, recently I've really been enjoying the idea of propping up on my elbow when grip fighting from half guard. And the basic game we play is we can look to fall from our elbow to take a grip on their near arm. Or we can attack their far arm by staying on our elbow and looking to take a cross grip, as we pull the guard passer across our body and look to enter the legs. But if we perform this strategy when the opponent has their elbow inside of our thigh, we don't have an effective lower body frame in place, so when we do get the 2-on-1 grip on their near arm, it's not very useful and the guard passer can flatten us out. So if we're playing half guard and the passer gets their forearm inside of our thigh, before we can take a grip on their near arm, we have to first reinsert a lower body frame. And with a lower body frame in place, we're now free to start attacking their near arm. Like I said, I've really been enjoying this elbow prop when grip fighting from half guard, but make sure when you're doing it, you have a lower body frame in place. Speaking of small battles from half guard, you can see the guard player enters half guard with an overhook before pummeling in a butterfly hook to enter butterfly half guard. This seems to be consistent with how Gordon Ryan likes to play half guard, where he'll play with a knee shield until he establishes some form of upper body control like an overhook. And then once he has control of the upper body, he pummels in his butterfly hook to enter butterfly half guard. But you can see the top player is very aware that this upper body connection is what makes it safe to play butterfly half guard. So the passer limp arms out before immediately creating an angle to threaten the pass. Speaking of small battles from half guard, the top player is likely going to want to control our head and shoulders. But as the bottom player, we want to prevent that. But it can be difficult to directly clear their crossface. So instead, we can threaten just enough of an elbow escape to force the top player to let go of their crossface to prevent us from winning the battle at the lower body. And now we make sure they don't get that crossface back. I think a lot of times the lower body to upper body dilemma is often glamorized, and we see very flashy examples of people attacking K-guard to get to an armbar. But even though this is not as highlight worthy, it's the same principle being done. Threaten to win battles at the lower body, and as your opponent addresses those threats, win the battle at the upper body. I talk about how to do this in my guard passing instructional from the top player's perspective. If you're having trouble controlling their head and shoulders, you can switch your attention from the upper body to the lower body and do things like pummeling and butterfly hooks. If you're interested in my instructional, it's now free to members of the Outlier database. It's pretty awesome, so check it out. Speaking of lower body to upper body dilemmas, this was easily my favorite takedown of the event, even though it didn't work. Kenta shoots in on a single leg that's well defended but leads to an underhook, also known as attacking the lower body to get to the upper body. With the underhook, Kenta uses this hip throw / power twist motion to off-balance his opponent to get to the far leg, setting up a beautiful knee tap takedown. Now Duke does a very impressive lat drop to counter the knee tap takedown and take top position. But this setup from Kenta has become one of my favorites, and I've seen J-Flow use it as well. Off an underhook, J-Flow uses that hip throw to off-balance Joseph looking to get to the far leg. Now it doesn't work, but you can see the idea, and this next example rounds out the sequence. Off the underhook, J-Flow threatens that hip throw but is not able to get to the far leg, so he tries a foot sweep on the near leg. Now again, it doesn't work, but trust me, try it out and let me know what you think. Sticking with the theme of wrestling, it seems like people are really starting to understand how to use the slanted walls to facilitate their takedowns. In Jiu Jitsu, there's not a penalty for being pushed out of bounds, and the idea behind the slanted wall is it gives you a significant disadvantage if you're getting pushed around the mat. In wrestling, they penalize players for getting pushed out of bounds with a stall call. And from what I've seen, Carter Starachi is a beautiful study when trying to apply it.
And again, Starachi shoots in. That's going to do it. A stall call against Ruth, his 5th. And he's been disqualified.
Carter likes to work with an underhook, collar tie, or inside bicep tie to walk his opponent towards the edge of the mat, where his opponent's actions become a lot more predictable. If they don't really do anything, Carter can shoot in on these half-hearted takedowns to force the opponent out of bounds and get that stall call. So to prevent the stall call, the way I see it, they basically have 3 options. They can pressure back in, they can try and circle towards the center, or they can shoot in on a takedown of their own. If they pressure in, Carter just gets out of the way as he snaps his opponent down to the mat. Or he can be more direct with a snap down, but I think you get the idea. It's also a great time to use things like throw bys or duck unders to initiate your takedowns. If they try to circle towards the center, the issue is it's hard to do this while maintaining good defensive posture. So as they go to circle, Carter gets good head position and capitalizes on the weak defensive structure to get a takedown. Here we see Carter pressuring his opponent towards the edge of the mat before reaching for a half-hearted single leg. Now earlier in the match, the defender did nothing to respect the single leg and was forced out of bounds and hit with the stall call. So to prevent that from happening again, they try and circle out to face the center. And Carter uses this as an opportunity to level change to get to the second leg and complete the takedown. This sequence is just so beautiful. Carter starts with a collar tie and uses it to snap his opponent down as he shoots in for a takedown. The takedown fails, but he goes from the lower body to the upper body, taking an underhook, and continues to walk his opponent towards the edge of the mat. And when he can no longer move his opponent, another snapdown, before getting back to his underhook and walking them towards the edge of the mat. This type of pressure is just relentless. And eventually they're like, bro, I'm done. I'm not tying up with you. I'm just gonna shoot. And Carter can defend these takedowns relatively easily and get into his offense. It's the pressure of constantly being forced to the edge of the mat that forces his opponents into uncharacteristic takedown attempts. And with the addition of the slanted walls in CJI, it really adds in this element to the standing game. And I believe it drastically favors those people who win the grip fight. And they can use things like collar ties, underhooks, or inside bicep ties to force their opponent against the wall where they can start to work their takedowns. And whether you're an athlete or a spectator, I encourage you to dive deeper into this topic before the CJI event by checking out this breakdown from the Earn Your Gold Medal YouTube channel. I just gave you my key takeaways, but that's the source.
But the threat of the stall call is going to open up. It's going to make the guy pressure back into you. So many things open up when you're pressuring the guy.
Another way we saw the slanted walls be used at CJI is to help with leg locks. When the defender runs into the wall, it makes it hard for them to turn and escape. And we can use that to help facilitate our attacks, similar to how the cage is used when applying leg locks in MMA. Now with some honorable mentions as we wrap the video up. Sticking with the theme of leg locks, people are getting very good at defending these days. The attacker initially does a great job of reaching for the secondary leg to force the defender down to their knee. Knowing that this is the attacker's primary option, the defender controls that hand as he stands to his feet. So now the attacker can't control the secondary leg, so he tries to switch to butterfly ashi on the primary leg. But the defender is one step ahead and ready with a quick backstep to escape and threaten the guard pass, before diving through looking to take the back. But he's struggling to climb the body, so he uses a back roll to enter the wedge. But the defender uses the momentum of the wedge to roll through and escape.
These are some incredible breakthroughs.
When we're attacking the legs from a position like single leg X, it's very annoying when the defender peels the foot off their hip and backsteps. But as they backstep looking to escape our single leg X, our foot that was on their hip can transition behind their knee to help us stay connected and keep attacking. This Barado Plata sequence was pretty unreal and it's out of my element, so I'll just let you watch it and rewind as needed. In terms of guard passing, I've recently been talking a lot about using interlock grips as a way to force the seated guard player down to their back in a safe manner. And we saw that being used in the event as well. It's also becoming very trendy to try and pass the guard underneath the legs. And as the guard player, we can look to bring our secondary leg across their body, or we can look to put it on their body as a frame. This frame gives us enough space to pummel our foot out of the scoop grip. But if we can't pummel our foot, we can look to invert so we can pummel our knee, effectively retaining guard against the under the legs passing. I obviously have more notes from a 7-hour event, but that's all I can fit into this video. If you're interested in more, all my notes are on the Outlier database. The link is right here.